Welcome to Punchline Talks, the big interview. I'm Mark Owen, editor of Punchline, and my special guest today is a Gloucester Rugby winner and a legend who's just announced his retirement. Welcome, Charlie Sharples.
Hi, Mark. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's my pleasure.
Great to see you again, mate. Last time we met actually was in Gloucester Brewery, and they were just launched this new beer, and I think you were with Louis Rees-Zammit. And he told me he was an Italian player, cheeky bugger.
No, it was Jakey. It was Jakey Pellegrini we were with.
Was it? Oh,
yeah. He is. Well, he's sort of Italian. No, he is. Well, he's obviously, it plays for him, doesn't he? But he's, I think he's maybe half or a quarter Italian, although he sounds very Bristolian. But yeah, no, Zam's Welsh through and through. He would never tell you he's Italian.
Well, I thought so, but I've been flogging it for years that I met him. Anyway, look, really sad news that you're retiring, and but you've been at the club for a long time. Whenever I do these big interviews, I always ask MDs and chief execs, about what's the turnover, how many people they have. Let's do the stats for you then, mate. How many times you played for Gloucester, scores, things like that?
Okay, and I'd just like to add to this that the only reason I know this off the top of my head is because we were talking about it a minute ago.
Okay,
so I'm not my own statistician who goes around reading them off. You might hear the contrary from some of the boys, but so it's 275 games, 91 tries, and 455 points. To be fair, I have been keeping count of the appearances because I wasn't far off getting the all-time professional appearance record, but the tries and the points, I wasn't too.
I was gonna say you're not one of these guys that keeps a little, chalk mark by the side of the bed, think you'll, crossing off as you go along.
No. But as I say, I think I was about, Nick Woods got the record, and I think he was about 278. So that was kind of like, that's been my motivation for the last 2 or 3 years to try and get that record. Unfortunately, my body had other ideas, so I never quite got there in the end. But no, still very proud to have represented Gloucester that many times and so many amazing memories.
So it's 15 years you've been at the club. You started when you were 14, wasn't it?
Yes, so I started in the academy when I was 14, but this is my 15th professional season. So I signed my first contract when I was in my last year of school, and then just joined straight after my A-levels, and then that was it.
So who's the first team that you played against then?
Well, I saw the first season I was at Gloucester, because obviously we had a very good squad that year. We came top of the Premiership, and I think that was the year that we lost the playoff at Kingsholm against Leicester. So we had a lot of good wingers. So I was on loan for most of that season, actually. So I was still training at Gloucester, and I'd still be doing all my academy training. But I was playing predominantly at Moseley, which was really good for my development, just introducing me to men's rugby, really, because it's a massive step up going from schoolboy to men's rugby, just in terms of the physicality, the speed of the game. So that was kind of where I cut my teeth. And then I was called back a couple of times that season by Gloucester when there were various injuries and people away. So I was lucky enough to make my debut, my Premiership debut in my first season that year, and it was against London Irish.
And how did it go?
I think it went all right. Yeah, I mean, it was only a 20-minute cameo off the bench. Yeah, I was talking about it a little bit last week when I was doing all my interviews with Gloucester about my retirement, and yeah, I do remember my first involvement where it was not a nice evening. It was very wet. Yeah, like Friday Night Lights, and I just always remember Mike Catt, just my first involvement being on the pitch. He was playing 10 or 12 for them at the time, and it was a dropout or a restart, and he just kicked the ball straight at me, and I dropped it. So that was my first involvement, but I didn't knock it on, fortunately. So yeah, that would have probably dented my confidence a little bit if there'd been a scrum, but I managed to wing it and get by. And then the following week I started a game, and again, I probably didn't set the world alight in that first game, but I think if you can show that you don't look out of place at that level in terms of, I guess, your skills and your physicality, then that's kind of the first step to getting used to playing at that level.
How old were you then? I was 16.
So I was 18. I was 18 then.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that was my professional debut at 18. I'd played some preseason games and some 18 matches previous to that, but that was my first competitive game for Gloucester Rugby. So a competitive game has to be one that's, you know, within one of the cups.
So after that, then you had your first full season. How did that go? The first year. And what year was that? Was that 2008, 2009, something like that?
That was 2007, 2008 was my first season. Yeah, I think you're just you're riding a bit of a wave, really. I mean, you're still so young, just come out of school. I was in my last year of school doing my A levels, and the teachers wanted me to fill out my UCAS applications, and I was like, no, I'm gonna go. I'm playing for Gloucester. I'm not. I'm not going to uni. Not going to uni next year. I want to play for Gloucester next year. And I was quite established in the academy, and I'd been involved a little bit with the first team as well. So I was pretty confident I was going to get a contract. But yeah, I think it was about April of that year that I finally signed the contract, and then it was official. It was like, right, wow, got my first year at Gloucester, getting paid $5,000 a year, rich.
I was gonna say
More than I was getting paid for my Saturday job, working in the kids' soft play centre. So I was suddenly like, oh, I've got all this money, like £400 a month. What am I going to spend it on? Because I'm still living at home. So it's funny, yeah, you know, to think back.
How did you do at school? You know, we've not been funny. You must be still O levels then, wasn't it? GCSEs?
No, come on now. I'm not that old. It was my GCSEs. So I always did all right at school. I did. Yeah, I think I got an A, a B, and a C for my A levels, which I was quite pleased with, considering I probably spent most of that year doing rugby. Because at that point, I was I was playing England under 18, so I was away at weekends. I was doing stuff with the academy. I was doing stuff with the first team. Yeah, rugby was getting pretty serious. I was doing a lot of training while I was at school, so gym, skills stuff. And St. Peter's were, you know, they were incredibly accommodating at that time, because they were probably one of the kind of big rugby schools in Gloucestershire, because we won the Daily Mail the first year I was there, and then we got to the quarterfinals the second year. So they, the headmaster at the time, Lawrence Montague, he really drove the sports program at the school.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a really talented group of players, and there was constantly people who were going through that school into Gloucester Rugby. So that gave me my kind of, luckily I got my A levels, so I got some qualifications while I was there, but it also springboarded me from a rugby perspective. And then, as I say, yeah, it's just a bit of a blur, really. You're just kind of, I guess you feel like you've made it because you're this schoolboy, you've suddenly signed your first professional contract, you turn up at training at day one, no one speaks to you, you're making the coffees, you're getting the mick taken out of you non-stop, and you're like, oh, okay. And you realize quite quickly that you're at the very bottom of an even bigger ladder. And it's one thing to have got there, but it's literally just a foot in the door. You know, a first team debut may as well be a million miles away when you start from the academy.
Well, the guys do the old kind of tricks, like, you know, can you get me a long stand and you know, all that kind of stuff.
I think it was more just a case of keeping your head down and just trying to like stay out of people's way. It's not like that now, but when I started 15 years ago, there'd been players who'd had a crossover from amateur to professional, or had maybe themselves hadn't played amateur, but had been involved with players who'd done amateur to professional. So, you know, it was a different environment, and you really had to kind of earn your stripes as a young player, and any back chat or anything like that wouldn't go down very well. So it was often best just to keep quiet and get your head down, and I did that for a few years. And then once you start playing and the boys see that you've got a bit about you, and then, you know, they're very welcoming then, but you do have to earn your respect, and that's still the case today, to be fair. Just we're probably, the older players are probably much softer on the younger players. We're much more nurturing and pastoral than probably what they were to me.
I think it goes to show how the workplace has developed, isn't it? Obviously, rugby's caught the same. I think every young person start in some ways exactly the same, and they kind of work their way up, and they show their worth to the company, whatever, and then people respect them.
Well, exactly. We're all a product of our environment, right? So those guys who, they probably had it 10 times worse than what I ever did when they were coming through as an 18-year-old, you know, with some of those grisly old Gloucester Gloucester forwards at that time, giving them an even harder time. So it obviously filtered through them, and then now that aspect of it probably doesn't exist so much anymore.
That pastoral side is very big, and mindfulness and the way that people feel, rather than just get on with it, the old slap on the head and don't feel too great, just get on with it. I think those days have gone, haven't they?
Yeah, 100%. And it's also, I think the kids that come through now, they have a lot more to deal with. Like when I started playing rugby, there wasn't any social media. I think Facebook had maybe just come in, so you weren't distracted by that side of it. And people can really get bogged down in that and rely on that gratification you get from the social media, and then get really down about the negative things they receive, and that's obviously not a very healthy way to live, I don't think. I always think you need your validation to come internally and from the people that you respect around you. So luckily, as I say, for my generation, we didn't have that. We didn't have to deal with that coming through. It obviously came at a later stage, but I've never really been a massive one for social media, so I sort of keep myself away from that. Otherwise, it just becomes a bit of a drain on your time as well, sat on your phone non-stop. But yeah, they and also the professionalism, the standards are probably higher now than what they were. It was still tough when I started, don't get me wrong, but the expectation now on a player in terms of what they do off the field is more, the standards you're required to adhere to look after yourself. The meetings that we go through, there's much more meetings, there's a much more in-depth analysis process. The game has evolved. It's a more complicated game now than what it was when I started, just because it's attacks and defensive both. Well, defensive improves and then attacks have subsequently had to improve. So it's there's a lot more stuff in the classroom, so it is more onerous on those young boys who come through now, for sure.
So let's talk about that briefly. So you've had a game, you've won or you lost. Is it next day? So it might be a game on a Saturday. What happens then? What's the process? Come back in on the Monday?
Yeah, so a Saturday game, you typically have your Sunday as a recovery day. So you'd have a day off, and there'd be no expectation for you to be anywhere or do anything, but you would be expected to, as a professional, you're being paid to be, an elite athlete. You're expected to look after your body. So that might, it's different for different people. Some people that might be, they go in and they get some physio or some treatment. It might be you go to the pool. It might be you go for a walk. It might be you sit on the sofa. Whatever it is, you look after yourself so that when you come in on Monday, you're ready to start again.
Do you ever give yourself a beer? Are you allowed a pint or anything like that? Or is that total taboo?
No. Our we've got a great nutritionist at the club, James Hudson, who's obviously a former player, and obviously from a nutritional standpoint, beer is probably the worst thing you could drink after a game. But there's still, fortunately, there's still room for it in rugby, and actually celebrating a win, commiserating a loss, whatever it is, everyone in the changing room, you have a beer after the game. And for some people that might be 1 or 2 beers. For some people that might be 10 beers. They might end up going out into town. But obviously it's there's still, it's not a drinking culture by any means, but luckily that's one thing that I think hasn't completely gone from rugby, is that the boys will still, if you get a good win, there'll be beers on the bus or there'll be beers after a game, and everyone can kind of enjoy it. And so you should, because those are the moments that you'll remember. You don't remember the games, you remember going to a horrible away ground and winning, and then having a long coach journey back and having a bit of a laugh on the bus. As long as you're ready to train on Monday, and when you get your skin folds done, you're not grotesquely overweight, that everyone's happy.
so you have a bit of a rest, R&R on a Sunday, and you go back in on Monday. What's the process then? When do you start retraining? Do you look at the stats?
Yeah, it's Mondays again, is more of a recovery day and a learning day. The training intensity, particularly for those people who've played, is very, very low. It might just be a walkthrough or jog through, and it's kind of installing. It's obviously analysing the game that's just gone, so looking at the areas that have gone well, what hasn't gone well, and then casting one eye on the game that's coming. So doing a little bit of install around that. So some of the learning on whatever plays they might be running for that week. And then really just making sure that come the Tuesday, because the Tuesday is a tough day, that's a physical day, that you're ready to go for that. I guess the thing about a rugby squad though is you've got people who play, people who haven't played. So for those guys who haven't played, their Monday will likely be a little bit more physical. So they might have some top-up conditioning, and obviously there's weights for everybody. But if you've just played and you've had 50 collisions, you know, if you're a Luds and you played 80 minutes and he gets, you know, 50, 60 collisions on his GPS sometimes, they're probably not expecting him to be doing a 1 rep max squat on a Monday. So it might just be that he has a bike and a foam roll, or does a bit of lift, whatever you work to, that you listen to your body, right? And as the older you get, the better you get at doing that. But if you feel like awful on a Monday, you're not going to come in and force yourself through a weight session when you're not going to get anything out of it. Sometimes you come in on a Monday and you think, well, actually, I played 80 minutes, but I feel great. You know, I'm gonna have a good session. So it's all predominantly recovery and learning based that Monday. Tuesday is the sort of physical day. Forwards do their mauling and a couple of live scrums perhaps. There's a little bit of controlled contact within the training. Wednesday is a day off. Thursday is sort of like your fast-paced execution day. So the training is a bit shorter, but it's done at a very high intensity. So it's kind of like priming you for that Saturday game that's coming ahead. Again, it might be slightly different if you're not playing, but if you are playing, that's what you're looking at. And then your Friday is just the captain's run. So that's literally, you come in, you'd come in at 11 o'clock, I think the captain's run start. Go out on the pitch. It's just jogging through the plays that you're going to run, doing a bit of kicking, catching, whatever you need to do at the end. But it's a very low intensity session. And then you're getting yourself physically and mentally prepared for the game on the Saturday.
Right. Do you ever feel sick before the game? You know, I've read in some of the players, they feel physically sick in the depending on the size of the game and what it actually means, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think, never physically sick, but always nerves. I think nerves are a good thing. If you don't feel nervous, I have come across some guys who are just very laid back before a game, and that's the other thing, is that you've got a team full of individuals and everybody's different. It's not a one size fits all. So the way that I prepare for a game might be different to someone else. As long as my preparation is not affecting him or vice versa, that's kind of the important thing. So for me, typically, I'd probably get quite anxious on the day of a game, probably go within myself a little bit, wouldn't really want to talk to people, just kind of have it on my mind all day, all morning, just wanted to get there and get it done. I never really like evening games because you just kind of waste the day, and you just sat at home and it's just get up at 7 or 8 in the morning and you haven't got a game for 12 hours, but it's on your mind and you're just at home. You don't want to get out and about because you're trying to conserve your energy. So I was never really a big fan of evening matches. I used to love the earlier the better, actually, because it's just, you get up, you play. But yeah, you feel nervous, but I think for me, I always needed that as part of.
Yeah, I'd hate the waiting around. I could see that, it's a bit like, I used to do amateur mathematics, and I know it's nothing like you, or anything like that, where you've got to wait a long period of time to do something. That would just drive me bloody mad.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere. You won't drive anywhere because just in case you get injured or something.
Well, some boys are right. Some boys are fine. They get out, they go for a coffee, they go for a walk. But for me, I was like, nah, don't leave the house. Sit there, lie here, conserve my energy. And it's suddenly like gets to 6 in the evening. You actually don't feel, you got to get yourself going. Then you're like, come on, and you're just eating because you're not eating because you're hungry. You're just eating because you're trying to fuel yourself for the game and making sure that right, 12 o'clock on the dot. Okay, I'll get my meal in and I'll eat that. And yeah, for me, some people love it. I mean, the one thing about an evening game is a slightly different atmosphere. Friday nights at King's Home are special, but if I could just delete the 10-hour build up to it, then that would have been the perfect scenario, I think.
So you played all these games, 245 appearances. Is there one game that really sticks out in your memory? 275, sorry. Is there one game that really sticks in your memory and you go, oh yeah, or do they all gel into?
I think you have games that will stand out for obvious reasons. So my debut, for instance, the game I scored my first try, cup finals that you win, the odd big away win, maybe. There's a couple of big, games we've won at Bath that I might remember just because they're always such
big. You always love to beat Bath.
Yeah, beating Bath away, winning some tough away games. But for the most part, no, not really. You just, I mean, I described the working week to you there, and that is literally, that's like your cycle. And it's Saturday, you win, you lose, you go home, and you come in and you repeat Monday, and you do that 30 times a season. Then the season's gone. Then you blink and you're back in for pre-season. Wow. And then before you know it, it's the first game of the season again. And that is literally, it's like most things, right? You know, time just flies, and it is like that in rugby. It just kind of, the games just, especially for people when you are fortunate enough to be playing week in, week out, if you're not selected or if you're injured, it can be a long haul. But when you are just into that cycle of playing, the games just kind of go by, the seasons go by, the years go by, and then before you know it, sat here retired.
Quite bloody depressing.
Well, no, because you do, obviously along the way you have some amazing moments, and like I said, you never forget. You know, there's games that I might have scored a hat trick, or I might have scored a good try, or might have been a great win, but I don't know many people who would remember every game that they played in.
Well, no, not after.
Some might, and for me, I reckon I probably remember 10%, to be honest with you, because like I say, it just becomes, it all just blurs in. But what I can remember is I can remember most of the people that I've worked with, that I've played with.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the guys that you played with then. Who's the sort of main characters over the years that you really enjoyed, that have been inspirational or just great fun?
There's been lots, to be fair. I think someone for me like Andy Hazel, you know, he was a Gloucester legend when I came into that team, and a local man, and still a good friend of mine now, sort of 15 years.
Doesn't he run an audio company now or something?
Yeah, he does very well. Yeah, he's got a website, Smart Home Sounds, sells various Sonos products, TVs, and he's doing really well for himself, and he's really passionate about that, and he's lucky enough that he's found something outside of rugby that he can be equally as passionate about, and he's put all his energy into this business, and it's going really well. But going back to when I started, you know, someone like that, and just the passion and the intensity that he would bring to a game day, and kind of showing what it actually meant to play for Gloucester and to represent Gloucester, and the emotion that he brought, and that always inspired me. And hopefully I took a bit of that on myself, and people may or may not have then kind of got that from me. I always think when you grow up supporting Gloucester and you play for them, you have perhaps a different association with the club, and yeah, he was obviously, and he was also a good character off the pitch, you know. And then there's other guys like Jim Hamilton, who's obviously a big character. He was funny. Will James. I think there's just been, every year in every squad I've ever been in, there's always a couple of big characters who are all, you know, constantly making people laugh, or just there to kind of.
So Phil Vickery must have been there with you, and Mike.
No, I never played with Phil, actually. Phil was at Wasps when I joined Gloucester. So Tins was there, and, you know, Tins was again a massive character, but like super laid back, super chilled bloke, you know, very down to earth, given that he's nearly in line for the throne, you know. So
he does see that. Well, I met him a couple of times, actually. He is very, very laid back. He actually let me kick a rugby ball on the pitch once between the pegs. I was doing some filming. I had to do a little video with him, and afterwards he was just walking off and said, "Hey Phil, is it all right if I kick a few kicks?" And he said, "Yeah, eat your heart out." So I spent like half an hour in my suit just kicking a few balls. I don't think you get away with it nowadays, but no, he seems a really nice guy. Hasn't changed, has it?
No, absolutely not. You know, he's Mike's lovely, and like, again, there's lots of people that shape your career as you're coming through, and I was lucky when I was a young player to have lots of those senior guys who kind of shaped my career in a good way, and you take different things from each of them. Plus the coaches, and yeah.
Yes, sorry. So where you are now, so you've got the shoulder injury. You were hoping to finish off the season, so you kind of had to announce your retirement. How do you feel about that, mate? Now, you kind of got, from what you said earlier, I suppose it's good to get off the treadmill, is it?
Well, I mean, to a degree, but you never wish time away, and I knew coming into this contract that it was going to be, I signed a 3-year contract, and I knew when I signed it that it would take me to 33, be my 15th season at the club. I knew for a winger, like, that's not a bad knock if you can get to your early 30s, because you're always on the wing, you're always competing with the next 18-year-old coming through, right? It's different. It's not a position where you necessarily mature like a fine wine. It's not like a prop or a halfback where often the older you get, the better you might get. As a winger, you get older, you get a bit slower, someone else is quicker, you're gone. So I knew coming into this contract it was possibly my last. I thought, I'll see how it goes. I'll know by my 2nd year how I'm doing. If I'm still playing and I feel good, maybe there's a chance I could do 1 more year. Anyway, the last 2 or 3 years have obviously been a bit weird because of COVID anyway, but for me, physically, I've just gone from injury to injury. I've not been able to get any continuity in my training, and that's not enjoyable. It's not an enjoyable space to be in, where you get injured, you put all the emotional and physical energy into your rehab, you come back, you play a couple of games, and then you're back in the physio room again, and it drains you a little bit, to be honest. And I knew also, well, I've been very fortunate at the start of my career that I'd strung a lot of games together. You know, I was like 100 games and 150 games in my early 20s, and then it slowed down a bit to 200, and then 200 to 250 got slow, and I thought, oh, I could be well over 300 by now, but I'm not even at the appearance record yet. So I knew physically perhaps it was my body telling me something, and I knew that. So I thought, yeah, fine, I'll retire at the end of the season. This is my last year. I've got stuff in place for life after rugby. I'll just enjoy this last year. I'll make the most of all of it. I know where I am in the squad. I'm not a starting winger anymore, but I know that I can push those guys. I know that when I'm fit, I'll give them a run for their money, and I'll keep driving it. I'll drive the squad on. I want the squad to do well. I'll try and sort of nurture these young boys who are in the non-23 sessions with me, keep them patient, let them realize that it's amazing, but it's tough. It's a lot easier to not be playing every week than it is to be playing every week. So yeah.
So how did you plan? When did you start planning to do, and what are you doing now? Obviously, you've got a big sign behind you, mate.
Yeah, sorry about that. Oops.
No, it's okay. You can get it. You can point to it if you like. So Gemini financial planning.
Yeah, no. So it was. I basically I'd always been very, very conscious of finishing rugby, because a lot of the guys because I played early when I came to the Gloucester team, 19, 20. A lot of my mates at the time were maybe 5-10 years older than me. So I saw them all go through their own retirements. I knew that my career was going to come to an end. There's only so much PlayStation and coffee and cinema I could do in my early 20s. So I got to my mid 20s or early, I think I was maybe 24, and I found this degree that I could do through the RPA, which is the Rugby Players Association. And that was the first thing. I didn't know what I wanted to do career-wise, but I thought, I'll do a degree. I've always known I want to do some further education. I'll get this done. That'll hopefully open a few doors for me, or leave me in a position of a bit more clarity about what I may or may not want to do. So I finished that. And then round about the same time, I was starting to dip my toe into the business world, if you like, and look around and what opportunities might be there and what might be suited to me, what I might enjoy. And I looked a bit into a few different things, but financial planning was something that I looked into in a bit of depth. And I thought, it's something that, what do I like doing? I like meeting people. I like speaking to people. I like helping people. I wanted a client-facing job that was about building relationships. And I'd also always had an interest in the technical side of it. The boys would always take the mick out of me for having my own spreadsheets and stuff like that. So it was kind of well suited in that regard. So I thought I'll start doing some of the qualifications and see how I find them. So I started my first exam and enjoyed it, and then just got my 6 exams done to get my diploma in regulated financial planning. It took me a little bit longer than I thought. I was hoping to get it wrapped up in sort of 2 or 3 years, but then I had 3 children. I had a testimonial season, so my time became a little I had a little bit less time outside of rugby than what I'd previously had, but I managed to get it done. So I finished that about a year ago, my last exam. So I was sort of just gradually boxing my exams off, and while all that was going on, I was meeting people, going into different companies, doing work experience, getting a further idea of what the job would be like and whether I would enjoy it, till I got to a point where I thought, yeah, that's what I want to do. Met some good companies locally. Did work experience.
Do you want to name some? I'll give them a free plug, mate.
I'll only plug. I shouldn't really plug any other company, should I? No, I'm actually working for a company. That's not right, is it? But Gemini, so one of the directors at Gemini, Julian, I'd met him at an end of season dinner, and we just sort of stayed in touch really, and I just used him as a bit of a sounding board over the years, and he offered me a job to come here, and I felt like it kind of ticked all the boxes for me, and it was the right company for me to come into and grow and develop.
Okay, so tell us about Gemini then, mate. So I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard of them, and where are they based, and how many
we're a chartered independent firm, so that means that obviously as an independent advice firm, you've got access to whole of market. They're probably that Julian would say he's a small company, but they're probably medium sized. There's probably 15 to 20 people working here now. There's about 7 advisors, so there's lots of people for me to learn off and bounce ideas off. We're based in Cheltenham, so yeah, it just, again, I just felt like it was the values that I had, I felt they were reciprocated here, and I felt like it was going to be a good environment for me to cut my teeth and learn in, and also be kind of nurtured and guided by the other advisors here. So I knew that I kind of worked it. I got to about, I don't know, the end of the summer. I spent my off season coming into this season, going in and doing some work experience at all the various different companies, and then got to about October time, and I thought, no, I think I want to take the opportunity at Gemini. So I had a job basically waiting for me in July. So I was just really looking forward to getting a bit of rugby in my last season, hopefully getting that appearance record. Anyway, rugby obviously has a habit of throwing curveballs, so things were going well. I'd had a pretty good pre-season. I'd been injury free, and then I was training well, probably was going to get a run at some point. We had some Prem Cup games coming up. And also in rugby, things can change like that, right? People, one minute you feel like you're a million miles away, suddenly 2 wingers go down in a week, someone gets called up to an international, and you go from you could be the last choice to starting. And I'd seen that before, because that was largely how I made my debut when I was 18, where I was last choice winger, and we had loads of wingers, and suddenly decimated and you're starting a game. So it does change quickly. I've always known that, and I always say that to people, just you got to be patient in rugby, because there will be an opportunity. You got to be ready when it comes. But I dislocated my shoulder playing an A-League game. I got tackled while I was scoring a try, and just pop, out it came. Pop went my dreams of my last season of rugby. Yeah. So it was disappointing, because I think I knew I knew that was probably going to be the end for me. I knew the operation was I needed an operation really if I wanted to have a stable shoulder for life after rugby, and it's a fairly decent operation. It's about 5 months of rehab, so that was basically going to put me out for most of this last year. So then I had to kind of go away and think about it, and the club were really supportive. I had some good conversations with Alex Brown and George Skivington, who both have retired through injury. And I guess I probably knew in my head as well, like I had a 3-week gap between my injury and my op, and I just did a bit of soul searching and a bit of reflecting, and I just kind of, some of the boys were like, "Nah, you can come back, come back, play one more game." And I just thought, what's one game going to do for me? I know what it takes from a rehab point of view, and I knew that, like, I've always given 100% my whole career for rugby. I've always felt like I've put it all in for Gloucester, and I just didn't want the last bit of me in rugby to not be the best bit of me. I thought I don't want to just get back and be 70% and then just be that, be trying to get out there for one more game, just because I just thought, no, that's not me. Like, if I can't come back and be 100% and be competing with these players, then I'm not doing myself justice. I'm not doing them justice. So that was a difficult realization, but it also kind of came with a bit of relief as well, because then the weight's gone. Then it's all lifted away from me. Luckily I'd put myself into a position where I didn't have to worry about my life after rugby, because I had a job, so I planned for it. So I wasn't suddenly like, oh God, what am I going to do now? I don't know. I knew that I had the job. I called up Julian, and he very kindly agreed to kind of bring forward my employment.
So
I managed to.
when did you start? You started now, have you?
I'm starting full time in April. So Gloucester, as I say, Gloucester were great because I had the early conversation. You know, Brownie sat down with me about a month after my op, and it was obviously quite a sensitive time. But he said, "Look, mate, where's your head at? Like, what are you thinking?" And I said to him, I was like, "No, I think I'm done. I don't think I'm going to come back and play." And he totally got it. And also it was kind of like, you know, we've got some good wingers coming through the academy as well. So if I'd have had a full season to have a crack at the whip, I probably would have got some games. You know, hopefully I would have got the appearance record. But if I get back fit for 6 weeks, 8 weeks of the season, you know, those guys are rightly going to be playing ahead of me. They've trained well all year. So I probably wouldn't have even got a game. I would have just been coming back to kind of watch training, sit on a watt bike, be on the sidelines. And I just thought, there's a better way to use my time. This is as bad as it is from a rugby perspective. From a transition point of view, actually, this is a gift. This is time now that I can use where Gloucester are giving me this time where they're going to rehabilitate my shoulder and they're going to allow me to use my spare time to transition. So since December, I've been coming into the office 2 or 3 days a week, just trying to give myself a head start, really, because I had the technical knowledge and I have the qualification, but as anyone knows who goes into a new job, there's lots to learn and there's people to meet here. So I've been able to use that time really constructively, which has allowed me to be in a good position to transition. And also I just think it kind of helped me phase myself away from it. If I'd have gone, when I look at it now in hindsight, as amazing as it would have been for me to achieve all those things on the field that I wanted to this year, to go suddenly, like Gloucester might be on a cup run this year, so we might finish end of June, right? And then I would be starting in July. So I'd go from all this rugby to suddenly 5 days a week in an office, and it would have been a lot harder. Where I've had the ability to gradually introduce myself into it.
Yes. So are we going to see Charlie Sharples with a tie and a suit and a briefcase and wandering around at network breakfasts and stuff like this? Is this what's going to happen next, Charlie?
Well, it's a casual office, you see. So look, I've got my zip neck on. My wife took the mick out of me because I had to go and buy some smart clothes because I've spent pretty much my whole life just in tracksuits. But I think she likes it better now because I've got lots of nice smart clothes to leave the house in. But yeah, I guess that's an element of it. The suit. Maybe not a suit. Maybe just the suit. Maybe not the tie. I don't know. I don't want to be too corporate. I want to be still.
You'll be at the King's Own.
Yourself,
you'll be at the King's Own business breakfast very shortly, or the Seven to Success wine and cheese thing at the wherever they do it nowadays. If you know what I mean.
I probably will, won't I? But I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to put myself out there too much. You know, I want to be.
Well, you got to.
I don't want people to be sick of seeing me.
You got to press the flesh to get a bit of business, Charlie.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I'm starting new now. I need to grow my business, but it's. I feel I feel I'm in the right place to do that, and it's all tinged with a bit of disappointment and a bit of sadness, but actually, the flip side of that. And the way that I've always tried to frame my retirement to myself, because I feel like there can be a lot of negativity and there's a bit of a stigma around transitioning athletes and people who retire from sport. And it's there for a reason, because a lot of people do struggle because it is hard. And it's when you've devoted your life to something and then it's gone, it is difficult. But I think for me, the way that I've tried to combat that is I've always just framed it differently and thinking that, you know, your career, your rugby career and all those experiences are amazing, but it's one chapter of your life. It doesn't define me. It's not who I am. And it was always going to come to an end. So it was kind of, now I've got this new chapter of my life where I can create a new career in something totally different. And there's lots of negatives to not being in rugby, but there's also lots of positives to not being in rugby. I've got my weekend back. I'm not confined by a schedule. Like you have a little bit more freedom. I don't have to deal with the emotional highs and the emotional lows that inevitably you get as a sportsman. I think it's a different.
When you start selling your pensions and stuff like that, and you close the deal, you'll be getting that emotional high and that emotional low. If you don't.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit more. It hopefully be a bit more of an even keel, because I think, you know, you go from winning a game of rugby in front of 16,000 people to making a terrible, like getting injured and being out for however long. There's high. I think one thing people say about sport, right, it's always high highs and low lows. And yeah, you might get that in business as well. And this is all new to me. This is all part of my new experiences. But certainly, I feel like I'll probably be on a bit more of an even keel with this profession. And I'm just really excited about just being able to do something new and testing myself, challenging myself in a different environment, because that's what got me to where I was in rugby. So.
And the fact you've gone to a good company sounds like a great boss, or sounds a great opportunity for you. So I'm going to find out.
He's going to be so happy you said that.
I'll big it up, but give me a fiver later. I've got to ask about Charlie Sharples, the guy then. So one of the things I always ask our guests is what type of music you listen to. So what was the last CD that you bought? Do you still buy CDs or Apple Play? What's the last? Okay, what's the song you've got?
I'm pretty sure the last CD I bought, I was about 12, and it was The Offspring. I don't even think they make CDs anymore, do they?
I'm showing my age, mate. I'm showing my age. Okay, what's the tracks in your car then? You turn it on now. What would you have on?
Okay, right. So I've got quite a diverse musical. I wouldn't say there's a genre. I tend to listen to Radio 1 in the car. I listen to podcasts or audio books, and again, they can be a lot of diversity in the podcasts I'm listening to. I have been known to listen to the odd financial planning podcast, but also, it might be like a comedy podcast or a sports one or a rugby one. So,
hey mate, does that mean you'll be listening to my show a bit more now then?
There we go. There, I'll download that. Variety is the spice of life, hey Mark. You don't want to just stick to one thing. So okay, I kind of take that view with my music. I'm sorry, I'm sitting on the fence there.
Yeah, come on, give us one group you really like.
One group I really like. Okay, well, I think I've always liked Jack Johnson. There you go. I feel like if I got to think of somebody who takes me back to when I was at school, and it's nice, relaxing music, isn't it? I think he's probably the one. If I was going to put someone's album on, I would put his album on. It's nice and peaceful, and don't always get that peace in a house with 3 young children running around. So yeah, I think
I don't even know who he is, I'm afraid.
I might not listen to him before a game, but yeah.
Okay, what's have you read a book recently? What is it?
Okay, I'm reading a book called The Psychology of Money, which again, it's all based around this new job. But my wife, she's trying to get me to read a book about breathing. Can you hear some knocking?
No.
That way you're looking over your shoulder, because there's some building work going on in the office. So there's some. If you
hear
some.
Look over my shoulder if it's in your house.
Oh, sorry. I thought you was coming through the speakers, but book. She wants me to read a book about breathing, but I tell her I can't, because my nose. Look at the state of my nose. Look.
Yeah.
I can barely breathe through my one nostril. I said, "You're trying to kill me." She wanted to take my mouth up shut at night, because apparently, and I get it. There is a lot of benefits to nasal nose breathing, but I just can't do it because I've been tackling my face for 15 years. So that's my next book.
You broke your nose. That's quite a few of them.
I don't know, but it doesn't look great, does it? But I don't really want to get it straightened either, because funnily enough, Jake Pelledri had his done where they obviously break it to clear because he couldn't breathe out of his nostril at all, and they break it so that you can basically breathe again through your nose. And he said it was horrible, so it really put me off. Well, and also, I'd have to pay for it.
I could recommend a local author, actually.
Go on then, get me a book.
Jeff, sorry.
I've got The Psychology of Money, and then my next one is Breath. So I need some more to add to my bookshelf.
Well, I can recommend Jeff Birch's book. He's a local author, a local business guru.
There we go.
I'll send you a picky of it. Anyway, we're coming to the end. We're massively over time, but that doesn't. No, it's not your fault at all. No, I've enjoyed talking to you. Your team. Normally, again, I always ask people the top 3 tips for business, but actually, for you, I've we had a little chat about this before. And I think it's the top 3 tips of staying hungry. That desire to keep going. How the hell do you keep getting up every day when you've been battered and bruised, or you're lost, or what's your secret over 15 years of a career to keep going?
Yeah. So I did have a good think about this, and it was difficult, because I think not every single one of these things is necessarily healthy way to live your life. But it's certainly from an elite sports point of view, for me, to keep me going and to get me where I'm going. I think I always thought, so how can I be the best version of myself was always one thing. And that is quite a broad statement, but one coach who really, Johan Ackerman, obviously, he was with us a few years ago, he really kind of brought a lot into the way that you present yourself and the culture that you have and the way that you treat people and inspiring people. And he used to talk about this, he used to call it your DNA. So your physical DNA, you go into a room, you leave your physical DNA everywhere. But he was like, your emotional DNA, how do you make people feel? If you go into a room, if you're nice to people, do you make them feel better? Do you leave people feeling good, or do you go play, you're rude? So I really thought that, so that's a bit more of a holistic one. So how can I be the best version of myself, physically, mentally, and within that, you then have your goal setting, which is obviously a massive part within sport and business as well, but always having something to work towards. So yeah, that kind of was the second one, really, was never being content. So always room for improvement. I think as a sportsman, you have to have lots of self-awareness, because if you mess up in a game, you have to be able to stand back and put your hands up and say, boys, that was me, I messed up, sorry, I dropped the ball, that's my fault. And you get used to doing that in training, in analysis of games. You have to own your mistakes. You have to be self-aware about what you're good at, what you're bad at, so how you can find those marginal gains. Where can you improve? Where can you be better? So always finding that room for improvement, I think, is a big one. And then the last one is kind of summarizes all of them, really, which is being comfortable being uncomfortable. So to get to a lot of those things, you got to go through a lot of difficult situations, whether that's a really nasty session or whether it's doing something that you don't feel like doing. Making yourself stay after training to watch the computer when all you want to do is go home and sleep. Getting up in the morning and taking yourself to the pool when you just want to stay in bed because that recovery session is going to make you feel better. Going into the gym and working hard, working a little bit harder on that run, whatever it is, getting into a freezing cold ice bath, kind of getting comfortable with that, with being out of your comfort zone, really. So you're never resting on your laurels, you're always striving. I say they're all very relevant for sport. I don't know if you would experience some sort of burnout if you had that with your mentality to everything, but they're all good. I think they're all good pillars. They're all good pillars, certainly, to have in life, and all those lessons that I've learned from sport are hopefully will translate into the motivation for my next career.
Well, I can hear you building now behind me.
Yeah, there we go.
I think if you can take those three that you've just talked about and put them in front of for Gemini and whatever you do in the future, mate. Not being funny, I'm sure you'll be a success at whatever you turn your hand to be. You're kind of driven that way.
How do we define success?
Well, that's very true. That is very true. How do you find yourself? Is it money? What is that? Is it money? That's
a different conversation, isn't it?
That's Charlie Sharples.
No, we're getting a bit deep now. This is a bit deep, isn't it now? So
hey mate, we might be doing a big interview in I don't know 5 years time. God knows where you'll be then, but I'm sure you'll be somewhere at the very, very top. Charlie Sharples, thanks ever so much for joining Punchline Talks, the big interview today. Really great to see you again. Please, if you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And hopefully we'll see you again next time. Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Cheers.
Bye.